If you are a fan of 80s action movies, then definitely check out the Kickstarter campaign for my first feature-length documentary, In Search of the Last Action Heroes. The film charts the rise and fall of the 1980s action movie genre. We'll reveal behind-the-scenes footage, exclusive insights and uncover stories never told before by the people behind one of the most iconic eras in cinema. We can only make this project happen with your support, so come and join me on this adventure back in time. Check out the link to our Kickstarter page and discover exclusive limited edition rewards in the description below. On the 2nd of May of this year, Cobra Kai arrived not in cinemas or Blu-ray, but straight to YouTube Red, or as it's known now, as YouTube Premium, as part of their paid subscription service. This service was only made available to a number of countries a couple of years ago, and has now been expanded heavily, and it's available in the UK. But Cobra Kai was available beforehand to UK viewers who wished to purchase each episode for a small cost. The first few were available to watch for free, however. Since its release nearly 2 months ago, Cobra Kai has received rave reviews from critics, hardcore fans of the series and newcomers. It's very rare for a movie or TV show to stand up against an original series when many years have passed. Remakes, sequels and soft reboots are now very much commonplace for moviegoers, as film studios try to profit off old properties and franchises, and as they have become more risk averse and creatively bankrupt over the years, they prefer to capitalise on existing brand names, and The Karate Kid had its own remake in 2010, so the series has not escaped that problem. Business wise it makes sense, but ultimately the audience lose out as we get less original IPs. When returning to a series after many years, in most cases it often backfires, leaving the audience cold as these new remakes fail to impress, and feels redundant with everyone forgetting about them a month or two later. But occasionally a gem comes along that really follows up on the popular franchise and feels worthwhile. Thankfully Cobra Kai knocks it out of the park, being one of the finest shows I've seen this year. We are given 10 episodes in total, each one roughly 30 minutes long, that take place 34 years after the original film. We follow Johnny Lawrence, who has been down on his luck for years. Seemingly losing the tournament destroyed his confidence and he found himself jumping from different jobs, now working as a decorator and general handyman, but his bad luck continues and he loses his current job and gets his car smashed up all in the same day. His car is taken in for repair at a local dealership owned by none other than his old rival Daniel LaRusso, now a fancy car salesman. Still bitter about losing to Daniel, Johnny is fired up to get back at him and reopens the Cobra Kai dojo as a new business venture. It seems all he was ever good at was karate. Everything may appear to be going well for Daniel, but he is also battling issues of his own, as he struggles to maintain balance in his life without the guidance of his mentor, Mr. Miyagi, who passed away a few years back. He hasn't continued with his karate and feels less connected to his children. Johnny comes to the rescue of a teenager called Miguel, who lives next door to him. Miguel is battling bullies at school and wants to be able to fight back like Johnny, becoming his first student at Cobra Kai. At first the dojo struggles to gain students because of Johnny's lack of business sense and his poor attitude, but the dojo begins to attract a group of bullied nerds and social outcasts who find a camaraderie and self-confidence under his tutelage, but they struggle under Johnny's aggressive discipline, despite warnings from his star pupil Miguel. While Johnny is focusing on his new students, his estranged son Robbie comes under the wing of Daniel, who hires Robbie at his car dealership, initially not knowing that Johnny is his father. Daniel eventually proves a positive influence to the boy, who shows an interest in karate, and Daniel gets inspired to teach him Mr. Miyagi's philosophy on balance. Meanwhile, Daniel's daughter Samantha, who is skilled in her father's karate, is caught in the middle of these conflicts as she learns who her true friends are. With the All Valley Karate Tournament on the horizon, Daniel is concerned Cobra Kai will be back in full force, and has to stop the dojo and its bad influence on the teenagers before it's too late. Leo Byronberg and Zach Robinson provided the score to Cobra Kai. They take the same approach as Bill Conti did with the original film and mix electronic music with orchestral compositions, throwing in some 80s style rock to complement Johnny. It does have shades of Vince DiCola's work on Rocky IV. There's even a great montage moment that takes cues from the fourth Rocky movie, as Stallone is driving and thinking about the loss of Creed and Johnny is battling his demons and his past. By episode 3 I was saying to myself, where's the original Bill Conti themes? Surely they haven't forgotten or chosen not to include them. But by episode 5, Miyagi's theme kicks in, the hairs on the back of your neck stand up and Daniel cleans out his training room so he can practice karate again, and the score is back in full force. Bill Conti's work is then called upon many times throughout the show, and I was so happy. Bringing back those themes really keeps continuity. They even throw in a pop song from the '84 film as it homages the date of Daniel and Ali, with Miguel and Samantha. The composers don't re-orchestrate Conti's work, they have just literally copy and pasted the music from the first film, which is perfectly fine with me. I just hate it when sequels or soft reboots are produced and they throw out all the great music from the past, so big props to the producers for licensing the music. The soundtrack came out alongside the show and was released by La La Land Records, with 28 tracks totaling around 44 minutes. Bill Conti's work is not on this release however, as it's all original material by the new composers. It's very affordable at $16 and is even available in a long box in limited numbers. I haven't seen a long box CD release in years. The soundtrack is fantastic and has many great tracks and definitely worth adding to your collection if you love 80s rock and synth. Come on, who doesn't love that style of music? Since the show came out, I've been bombarded with requests from my viewers to review it. Now this review is not a full breakdown of the show, but just to give you my overall thoughts on it. Before its release I had no real expectations. I watched the trailer and it seemed okay, but I kind of feared it would be a short run of episodes or not really provide anything new that would keep me hooked. Boy was I wrong. After the first episode I was glued to my seat and ploughed through 4 episodes in one evening. When I watch a new TV series and all the episodes are available, I like to spread them out and not watch them all in one go. The beauty of this show is seeing it all from Johnny's perspective. It felt refreshing, and as a character there seemed to be a lot more to explore with him than Daniel. Johnny isn't a super nice guy, he's a bit of a dick, he's stuck in the past and not very friendly to people, and likes being by himself. But there are nuggets of good in him, and that makes him likeable and you find yourself rooting for him. You want him to succeed as he's had a shitty life and was treated badly by his wealthy stepfather. William Zabka seems to have kept up his martial arts training over the years, appearing alongside Karate Kid villain Kreese, i.e. Martin Kove, in Shoot Fighter back in the 90s, which is hilariously awesome. It's a cheap tournament movie where people fight to the death. William fights very well on camera and his skills as an actor have really improved since the days of the first Karate Kid movie. His performance is very controlled and he does a lot without saying much. You can see the frustration and often pain he is in by just how he acts with his eyes. Honestly, I think he's the best thing about this new series. The show is also pretty comedic. It's not a straight out serious show, and William plays up to that. It's light-hearted and pokes fun at the classic lines from the original film. It's not done in a way to mock it, but done with affection. The Karate Kid films for me failed to do much with Daniel for the sequels. They kept treading familiar ground. There just wasn't much of an arc for him after part 1. This time round they have made great efforts to show us how far Daniel has come. He is certainly more likeable and not as hot-headed, but does have an ego due to his success. He has lost balance however in his life, and with Miyagi not around, he lacks that wisdom he needs to sort out his relationship with his kids. With Johnny now on the scene and Cobra Kai returning, he often reacts without thinking and makes mistakes. For the first few episodes I wasn't really rooting for Daniel, I was on Johnny's side. It's often the case that these so-called bad guys of a story are often more interesting, but once Daniel starts getting in control of his actions, he starts practicing karate again, and I was starting to support him as well. What the show successfully does is treat the original movie series with respect. Part 2 and 3 are canon. It doesn't ignore them like so many sequels or remakes tend to do and just follow on from the first film. It's very clear the filmmakers and writers are big fans of the films and throw in some great subtle references. It doesn't spend its time leaning on the nostalgic factor, but found the perfect way to continue the story after all these years, which is no easy feat, and the filmmakers should be commended for that. There are some great character twists. For example, Miguel, a young lad who is a good guy at heart, coming from a broken home, he is taken under Johnny's wing to be trained and comes out a villain in the end. And then we have Johnny's son who had a bad upbringing and has turned to a life of petty crime. He is trained by Daniel and driven to be a better person. It shows you how the different aggressive and defensive philosophies of karate can be used to steer the direction of a student. Karate is by design a method of self-defense, but if abused and used in the wrong way can be used as a weapon. The theme of the show is finding that balance and showing you the bad side of things and how easily someone can be turned from a well-mannered and kind person to an arrogant and aggressive individual. Johnny himself has moments of doubting his training methods because he can now see what Kreese did to him. There was a couple of nitpicking things I wanted to bring up. The photography I found to be a bit flat in places, looking too clean and digital. There are nice moments of course, especially during the training montage, but overall it didn't have the richness of the original trilogy. The originals were pushing a sense of reality, but presented in a theatrical feature level of quality. Cobra Kai is in the realms of TV, and doesn't have that theatrical look or the budget. Without Pat Morita as Mr. Miyagi, it does lack some of the heart that made the series so special. But there are nice moments of Daniel reminiscing about his former master, and that sprinkling of the score by Bill Conti does bring back the warmth of Miyagi, so it's not totally void of the magic of their father and son relationship. With the show featuring young teenagers, it can become a tad cheesy, as it deals with their issues of growing up and falling in love, etc. But it balances that okay, so it doesn't become unwatchable for adults or fall into that category of cringeworthy. The level of cheese is like a sprinkle of parmesan. These are only minor nitpicks, because anything I put forward as a slight negative doesn't affect the overall quality of the show or my enjoyment of it, because the writing, direction and performances are splendid. As I mentioned earlier, I was hooked after the first episode. It starts strong and continues to keep you engaged throughout. Often with TV series you get a duff episode or one that feels like padding, but I really enjoyed all of them. In all honesty, I think the show is on par with the original film. It may be too early or blasphemous to say it's better, but it's bloody close. Cobra Kai is far better than the Karate Kid sequels, the next Karate Kid and the remake. This is the best thing that has happened to the beloved franchise. With its popularity and rave reviews, it's already had a second season commissioned for release next year, and I can't wait to watch it. Don't forget to check out the Kickstarter. You can find the link to the campaign in the description below.